So, much like most Disney Plus TV shows, Ahsoka has come and gone without barely leaving a mark on the pop culture landscape. It's not that it's bad or good, it's just kind of a nothing burger. A story that, not unlike Kenobi, is doomed to be forgotten the second its credits roll. Ahsoka is a weird show. It's not dull, but it's not exciting. It's not fast-paced, but it's not slow-paced. It's just kind of there. Andor, on the other hand, is a fantastic show. A story with realistic characters, moral dilemmas, and terrific world building. Unlike Ahsoka, Andor does not rely on being a Star Wars show to get any traction. In fact, you could even argue that the Star Wars label probably hurts Andor more than it helps. If it was known as just good science fiction dystopia, it would likely get way more viewers than it does being Andor, a Star Wars spin-off starring a forgettable character from yet another forgettable Star Wars movie. But I digress. So what makes Andor so much better than something like Ahsoka? What does Ahsoka do wrong that Andor did right? The first episode of Andor opens with an uncharacteristic Star Wars scene. Our protagonist murders two people in somewhat justified cold blood.
We're going together. I'll tell them what happened.
And along the season we are introduced to multiple characters that meet their demise at the hands of the Empire. This creates a sense of consequences, of substance, of stakes. Things matter, this is a realistic world, at least within its sci-fi framework. Ahsoka, on the other hand, chooses to have Sabine impaled with a lightsaber in the very first episode. Only to have her fully recovered about 30 minutes later. See, one thing that George Lucas understood all too well was that there had to be consequences in a Star Wars story. If you lost a lightsaber fight and lived, you had to sacrifice a limb at least. There had to be some consequence to the loss, some price to pay. In Ahsoka, and most of Disney's Star Wars for that matter, this is absent. There are no consequences, as such the characters are never in any real danger, and we the audience are also never in any real danger of caring about anyone in the story. Now, I'm not saying you have to go on a George R.R. Martin-esque rampage to infuse your story with stakes, but actually killing a character here and there will definitely not hurt your chances. Pointless fan service, also known as "hey, remember that thing you liked when you were a kid?" is something that Andor did not concern itself with. There's literally no fan service whatsoever in Andor. Even Tony Gilroy, the showrunner, said publicly that fan service was intentionally avoided at all costs. Ahsoka, on the other hand, drowns itself in fan service, in the form of Hayden Christensen. Anakin Skywalker is back once again after being back only like a year ago in Kenobi. My senses are admittedly tingling with nostalgia.
I don't like sand.
I too grew up with the Star Wars prequels and liked them very much for a time. But pointless fan service is pointless fan service, and no amount of nostalgia is going to erase that. What purpose did Anakin serve in the story other than giving Ahsoka abstract and cryptic advice?
I'm here to finish your training.
What's the lesson, Master?
Live or die.
Kay, what do you mean?
None that I can tell. Andor, on the other hand, did not waste time with such nonsense. It got to work in creating setups that led to satisfying payoffs instead of trying to play cheap tricks on your childhood fandoms. Writing interesting characters is hard. However, writing relatable characters shouldn't be that hard. The characters in Andor are not necessarily that interesting or likable, but they are at least realistic and relatable people. Their lives under the oppression of the Empire are ones that we can at least empathize with. Their situation is one that we can put ourselves into. Their reactions to the world surrounding them are at least human and realistic. Ahsoka, on the other hand, has a bizarre approach to its characters. No one is relatable because no one really acts like a human being. Ahsoka and Sabine are both allergic to any form of human emotion. Ahsoka is mostly expressionless and emotionless throughout the story. Even her robot friend comes across as more human than her. Sabine also follows in Ahsoka's overly stoic footsteps, except she looks annoyed every once in a while, which is at least one more emotion than Ahsoka herself ever displays. I mean, look at this scene. Both Ahsoka and Sabine are left behind stranded on a remote galaxy, as Thrawn escapes to start a galaxy-wide war that may lead to another Imperial regime. but by the looks on Ahsoka and Sabine's faces you'd think they were watching a movie or something, and not a very good one. They look like they don't care about what's happening, and if they don't care about the plot, well, neither do I. And on the topic of characters and character development, let's talk about character arcs. Andor has a clear, concise character arc that bookends its story. Cassian Andor starts out as a man who despises the Empire but refuses to fight it.
I think it's all useless.
Better to spit on their food and steal their trinkets.
It's better to leave. Better to eat, sleep, do what you want.
He simply declares the situation hopeless and tries to adapt to life under the Empire's thumb. However, as the season develops, we see Cassian's quiet desperation building and simmering with each act of Imperial oppression. By the end of the season, Cassian has changed. He has undergone an arc. He is no longer a man who simply resigns to life under the Empire, but instead he has become a soldier willing to fully commit to the rebellion and overthrow the Empire.
Kill me. Or take me in.
It's a clear, definable arc earned through consistently good storytelling with each passing episode. Ahsoka's story, on the other hand, does not really have any good arcs. Ahsoka's arc, if you can call it that, appears to be the decision to fully embrace Sabine as her Padawan.
Often no one understood my reasons, except my master. He always stood by me. That's why, no matter what happens next, I'm going to be there for you.
Which would maybe be okay if it had any legs to stand on. However, its legs are a couple of cryptic fan service scenes with Anakin that do not hold much weight. The same goes for Sabine. She starts out as a completely useless Jedi.
I have known many Padawans over the centuries, and I can safely say your aptitude for the Force would fall short of them all.
Throughout most of the season, she remains a completely useless Jedi.
Dean, I've got Hera.
And then in the finale, she suddenly learns to use the Force when the plot needs her to. Again, the foundation here is pretty spotty. The growth is not linear, but instead happens instantly when it's most convenient to the story. There's no ramp up to her development. So to conclude, Andor is not just a great Star Wars story, but it's a great science fiction show in general. Ahsoka, on the other hand, is the latest in a long line of just okay Disney Plus shows.
See you, chump.